It will tell you larynx muscles, lips, facial muscles, pharynx, all the muscles, tongue involved in the production of words. It will coordinate their action, will tell them to do the action. So that is the motor component. If you damage Broca, you will have affluent or non-fluent aphasia. You cannot produce words, right? And the patient is aware and he feels embarrassed because he cannot produce words. Now, Wernicke is concerned with the other component, which is basically comprehension. Comprehension of spoken language. Comprehension of written language. The stuff that you write, the stuff that you read, the stuff that you think of and you want to say, that is the function of Wernicke. Right? Somebody is talking to you to understand it, to make it make sense, you need Wernicke. You're writing something, you're reading something, that is Wernicke. So it is concerned with perception. So damage to Wernicke's area, the patient will be saying words because, Broca is intact. But the words will not make sense, will be nonsensicals because there is no thinking process. So he will be saying class, car, garden, pencil, drug, whatever, pharmacy, and he will be happy because he's not aware of the problem. He's just talking, spontaneous language they call it. He's just producing words with no meaning. He cannot understand what he reads and writes. They say area 22 is concerned with the spoken language and the area 39 is concerned with the written language, whatever. We don't go to that detail. So Wernicke's is the area of speech that is concerned with perception of a spoken and written language and even your own thoughts. You lose that, you will have perceptive aphasia or Wernicke's aphasia, they call it. And is the patient aware? No, the patient is not aware. He will be producing a word salad, what they call it, or nonsensical word. Now, the other thing, and I want you to understand now, Broca and Wernicke's are only present on one side, one hemisphere. طبعا the world, the field of neuroscience is huge, and it's all about theories. What is known, what is understood is very limited. We don't want to go into theories, they might exist and they may, deal with emotions, and don't get into that. So for now, for simple basic understanding, Wernicke's and Broca, functional Wernicke's, let's put it this way, and Broca will be present on one side. Simple. Either, can be on the right side or they can be on the left side. But let's say they are both present on one side only. Is this clear? Yes. Because I'm going to come to this point later on.
So they should be both on the same side, like when the
Yeah.
kids on the right.
Yeah. Because they are connected too, right? So, now do they communicate with each other, Wernicke's and Broca? Yes. Through what? Superior longitudinal fasciculus or the arcuate fasciculus. Now, if there is a damage to that area, to this fasciculus, what will happen is you have conduction or conductive aphasia, or they call it disconnect syndrome. So, تعال أبو شباب. شو رأيك؟ ليش؟ إن شاء الله لا ترجع. So, if there is damage to this fasciculus, perception is normal, production is normal, motor is normal, and perception is normal. So where is the problem? There is disconnection, there is delay, to simplify it. So those patients, they will have certain signs and symptoms. Basically, they will have a problem with repetition of words. and they will be looking for words and they cannot find them. They who wants to say, oh, by the way, it was nice, nice, nice. He cannot find, he cannot say, this is a phone, or this is a remote, or he will be, we all have this, But, sometimes that is normal. You forget things, that is normal. This has nothing to do with memory. It's just that conveying the information. And is the patient, and he cannot do certain tasks, and you tell him, oh, count from 90 to 80 backwards. 90, 89, 88, 87. He cannot do this. And this is called the disconnection. Is the patient aware of this? Yes, and he feels embarrassed, Oh, how are you, Mr. Okay. He's your boss, you deal with him every day for years, and you cannot remember his. So that is embarrassing to them. So Broca or motor aphasia patient is aware. This conductive aphasia patient is aware. The perceptive or Wernicke's aphasia, the patient is not aware. He lives a happy life. Now, back to these areas 39 and 40. This is the somatosensory association area. This is the supramarginal area 40, and this is area 39. Now, areas 39 and 40, we don't know much about them. Again, if you read about them, you will be confused. But because of their location between auditory, visual, somatosensory, and secondary or sensory areas, they play a role in integrating all of these information. What we know for sure, forget about the theories about how they function, but what we know for sure, what will happen if they are damaged. And what will happen if they are damaged will depend on whether they are located on the dominant hemisphere or non-dominant hemisphere. Dominant? How did we define dominant hemisphere? Well, you find Wernicke's and Broca. Previously, they used to think is the dominant hemisphere will control all functions of your body. But now the recent definition of dominance is all about location of speech areas. Wernicke's and Broca. If they are on the left, that is the left dominance. If they are on the right hemisphere is the dominant hemisphere. The only correlation they are making with the dominant hemisphere is handedness. So 96% of the people with left dominant hemisphere, they are right-handed. 96% of the people of right dominant hemisphere, they are left-handed. That's the only correlation, and it's not that important. But other functions, they have nothing to do with this, except for you, for this level, is the areas 39 and 40. Now, areas 39 and 40, if they are located on the dominant hemisphere, where you have Wernicke's and Broca, and you damage these areas, you will have what we call Gerstmann syndrome. These patients will have expressive and receptive aphasia, both aphasias, and they cannot read, they cannot write, they cannot do simple calculation, they cannot recognize things, structures, people, objects. They cannot, know the right from the left. This is called Gerstmann syndrome. When do you have Gerstmann syndrome? Where you have agraphia, adexia, aphasia, agnosia, especially finger agnosia. They cannot recognize even their finger. Now, where do you have that? If you have these areas, especially area 39, on the dominant hemisphere. Now, what if they are located on the non-dominant hemisphere? Yani Broca and Wernicke's on one side, and areas with perception of body image, relation of your body and different parts to your surroundings. You know, spatial means in relation to space, okay? They will deal with non-verbal experiences. So it's all about imagination and perception of your own body and your body parts to relate in relation to others, and to simplify. But what happens if they are damaged is more interesting. If these areas located on the non-dominant hemisphere are damaged, you will have what is called hemi-neglect syndrome. So if those areas are on the right, you will completely neglect the other side of your body, as if it does not exist. So you will be shaving, and you will shave only one side of it. You cannot see it. You will be eating in a plate. You will eat what's on the right. Still hungry. You cannot see what's on the left. You cannot. It is there. You see it, but
perception of the
yeah, perception is as if there is nothing there. You will be putting makeup, so you will put makeup on the. Oh, you guys don't. Okay. You know, putting lipstick on one side of the face, drawing a face, you will draw only half of the face. This is very interesting. It's called hemi-neglect syndrome. طبعا, whether there will be sensory involvement, يعني, if you touch him on the left, if you burn him on the left, if you injure him on the left, will he feel or not? You know, some of them will have sensory components, some of them will have motor components, they will be impairment of movement, some will have both, but the rest will have what we call, oops, why am I jumping to this? This is not my lecture. I updated this. You have the old one, yeah, Shiva. So, it is called hemi-neglect syndrome. So, انتوا واخدينها من العام. طبعا امبارح I gave you another one, an updated one. Okay, so important concepts. Broca and Wernicke's are present where? On the dominant hemisphere. So dominance refers to the presence of speech areas. If they are on the left, we say this is left dominance. If they are on the right, this is areas 39 and 40, they are present where? They are present where? Both. ما في dependence. Areas 39 and 40, they are present on both. But if they are damaged, then different signs and symptoms. If they are damaged when they are present with Wernicke's and Broca's on the dominant hemisphere, you will have Gershman syndrome, aphasia, alexia, agraphia, acalculia, agnosia, right, left, whatever. If they are present on the non-dominant hemisphere and they get damaged, you will have contralateral hemi-neglect syndrome. Contralateral, and you know, it might have sensory component, might have motor component, might have both, but the worst is the conceptual. You don't perceive the other side of your body. It exists actually. Go and Google it and see some interesting videos on YouTube, but don't read much about it, you will be confused. And my advice, just take it as simple as that. Okay? Yes. Now, occipital lobe. Occipital lobe will be dealing with vision, simply area number 17, mostly on the medial side of the cerebral cortex along the calcarein circle. And we have secondary visual areas, areas 18 and 19, that will interpret what you see. Right? So, what is the function of area 17, the primary visual area? So you see something, I see your class, right? Your visual field will come to my retina, and from the retina, optic nerve, optic tract, optic chiasm, optic radiation to the final destination is what? Cortex, the primary visual area, right? So what you see, your visual field will come to your cortex. Does it come to the right cortex or left cortex? So right eye will send to the left cortex and this eye will send to the right cortex. Those who studied the objective for this week, they know the answer, and I want the rest to participate. يعني vision from your eye, the visual field from your right eye will go to the right cortex or left cortex. شباب شو اسمه هذا؟ What's your name? Huh? Abdullah, answer me. Answer يا عبد الله. لا تقل السؤال، هو سمع السؤال المفروض ولا لا؟ Answer.
The right half of the visual field go to the right lobe and the left half to the left.
Excellent. So let's deal with the two eyes separately. You know, I'm seeing you with one eye, right? The right half of what I see, right visual field, will go to the left cortex. And the left visual field will go to the right cortex, opposite. And the same for the second eye. The right will go to the left, and the left visual field will go to the right. So both rights from both eyes will go to the left cortex. For example, you know, this is a city. This is Riyadh, and this is the Eiffel Tower. This is Narcissus. So these are my eyes. My nose will be here, right? Now, if I'm looking with my right eye, half of the city, the right side of my visual field, will go to the left cortex. Now, the same for the other eye. The right side of my visual field will go to the left cortex. If I damage the left cortex, what you gonna lose?
Right field.
So you're gonna lose
Of both
right side and the right side. Right side on this eye, what do we call it? Temporal. Right side on this eye close to the nose. So we're gonna call it nose. So two different sides, one close, they both right. Huh? They are both right. So you're gonna lose the right side of your vision. So we're gonna lose the right side of your vision. What are we gonna call that? Right? The same side. We lost right and right. Hemi, because half of the visual field, anopia or anopsia vision. Okay? So again, the right side of visual field of each eye will go to the left cortex. The left side of visual field of each eye will go to the right cortex. So if you damage the left cortex, you will lose the right visual field of each eye. So we're going to call it right. Homonymous, because both are right. If both are not right and left, we call that heteronymous. Okay? So, right, homonymous, hemi, half, anopia or anopsia. Now similarly, left side of your visual field of both eyes, they go to the right cortex. If you damage the right cortex, what you're going to have? The left side disappears. So you will have left Homonymous hemianopsia or anopsia. Now, depending, you will have one full lecture on the visual pathway, depending on the lesion, whether it is in the optic nerve, or optic chiasm, or optic radiation, or optic tract. Lesion will be different. But this is the concept. Why on the contralateral side? Why it goes to the left? Because they cross at the optic chiasm. Okay? Now, and this is another important. Now, why would you get the damage to the area number 17, the primary visual field, so that you have homonymous hemianopsia? In which conditions? Trauma. Ischemia. Tumor, for example. So if you have a tumor on area 17, you will have homonymous hemianopia. Right or left, depending on whether right cortex or left cortex, right? If you have a trauma to that area, you will have you have damage to that area. What will happen? You will still have homonymous hemianopia. But as a physician, usually the cause is the posterior cerebral artery because it supplies the primary visual area. But as a physician, you should tell, no, that's not due to trauma, that's not due to tumor, this is due to occlusion of the posterior cerebral artery. How? You will see something like this. This is left homonymous hemianopia. Oops, but there is something new here. The central vision is intact. How come the central vision is intact? Because the macula, or the projection of the macula, which is responsible for the central vision, receives two arteries. One is the posterior cerebral, one is the middle cerebral. So if you have occlusion of the posterior cerebral, yes, you will have homonymous hemianopsia. Sparing except the macula. Why the macula? Because it receives two arteries. Is this clear? Yes. It's a very common question, very common clinical scenario. Yeah, I will give you the question away. Once you see homonymous hemianopsia sparing the macula, you know it's the posterior cerebral artery.
So macula is like
Macula is part of the retina responsible for the central vision. Okay, the artery supplies the part of the cortex that will receive from the macula, receive two arteries. Posterior cerebral, we'll talk about it next lecture, inshallah. Okay, because the patient with posterior cerebral artery will not come only with, homonymous hemianopsia. We'll have many other signs and symptoms. But what we give it away is sparing the macula. Okay? Now other areas related to the vision 18 and 19, the secondary areas, they will make sense of what you see. You see that, you say this is a projector. You see this, you say this is a remote. See that, say this is a pen. If you damage those areas, you can still see. But it will make no sense to you. You don't know what it means, whatever you see. Okay? That's called a visual agnosia. Visual agnosis. Now, since we are here, we'll continue. This is the somatosensory, this is the parietal lobe, and obviously, these are extensions of the primary somatosensory area and the somatosensory association areas. If you go to the frontal lobe, this is extension of area 4, extension of area 6, extension of area 8, and so on. Same function, but the difference is difference. And these areas on the medial surface are responsible for what? You should know this by now. They are responsible for lower limb. This is the anterior cerebral artery. Damage to the anterior cerebral artery or occlusion, you will not have paralysis of the upper half. It will have lower half because it supplies the medial aspect. Right? And again, you can see the rest of the frontal lobe, prefrontal cortex, and as we said, it covers three surfaces: left, lateral, medial, and inferior. On the inferior, you see what is that? Olfactory bulb and olfactory tract responsible for what? Smell, olfaction, and and also the temporal lobe here is concerned with olfaction. Here is the parahippocampus area. What what is the hippocampus?
Memory.
Memory. Campus equals memory. Responsible for memory, and these parts are responsible for olfaction. This is called the ancus. That is called the entorhinal cortex area 34, and primary olfaction area. So the temporal lobe is also concerned with the olfaction, and all sensation will go to the thalamus. All sensation. Huh?
Yeah.
Station, thalamus is like is the central station of all trains. Will receive all trains except
لا olfaction.
Olfaction.
Thalamus will receive all sensation with the exception of olfaction. Okay?
So damage to the thalamus can have these symptoms.
Thalamus, I will have everything damaged to the thalamus. We did not study the diencephalon yet. No. Just for now, deal with the brainstem. Actually, there is a proposal. We are trying to push for a proposal starting next year. Divide the neuron into two halves. So you do midterm, خلاص. You're done with the
You can try it as a pilot.
A pilot study, yeah. Well, push for it. And I think the atmosphere is ready for it. Just a little push. ايه؟
جربوه فينا اول ناس، طب جربوا فينا هي كمان اول ناس.
انت حقل تجارب يا لا انتم مو حقل تجارب، ما حد جرب فيكم.
لا